We came out on the porch so we could escape from this. And look what we have here. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Did you get her?
Well, we're going to check here in just
Look at she's pulling on the door. She's trying to open it up, poor little thing.
Okay, I just... Hey, Dad. Today is what?
Today is the 12th of July.
Okay.
In 1945, on the 11th of July, I returned back from the war in Europe. And instead of getting off of the train when I got back, I come straight to Washington, got a taxi cab, and come on home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite a surprise for my wife. She wasn't expecting me.
Mm-hmm.
The next morning I had to return back to Fort Meade, and I took my car along. Of course, I didn't know where my troops were. So the first orderly room that I came to, I stopped. There was some sergeant in there, in the orderly room, and there was a sort of like a high separation there, you know. And I walked in there and I said, Sergeant, I said, I was asleep on the train and I didn't wake up till I got to Washington. And I said, I want to know where my troops are. So this sergeant looked at me and he said, Soldier, I guess you know you're AWOL. And of course that infuriated me after just coming back from overseas. I reached over the counter and pulled him to me and said, Sergeant, those are harsh words. Where are my troops? But he turned a couple of different colors, where he promptly started calling around and finding where my troops were. That was my introduction. Well,
now let me ask you something. So when the war in Germany was over, and you were back here in the States, but you couldn't go home because the war in Japan was still going on.
Well, the thing with it is, I was supposed to be okay. When we were still overseas,
Yeah.
our general volunteered us for a mainland invasion on Japan.
Who was your general?
Lear.
Okay.
General Lear. And the War Department says, oh, he wanted us to go directly from Germany right straight over to Japan. So the War Department said, no, the boys need 30 days in the States furlough. So they sent us to the States. And I know the first thing I did when I got off the boat was kiss the wharf in Boston. But anyhow, so all these things then happened, and I went back. I found my troops, and
How long had you been here in the States before you went to Washington, D.C.?
a matter of, well, we were promptly taken off the boat
You were in Boston.
in Boston, at the Boston Harbor,
Mm-hmm.
and we were put on trains
Mm-hmm.
to our
Destinations.
to Fort Meade.
To Fort Meade.
Yes, and that's where we were supposed to report.
And where's Fort Meade? What state?
Right here in Maryland.
Oh, so you were right here in Maryland.
Yeah, I was only about 40 miles from home.
So when you got to Fort Meade, how many days did you stay in Fort Meade before you went home?
That's another thing. Oh no, I come straightly home the first.
Instead of going to Fort Meade, you came home.
Came home. Then I went back to Fort Meade and reported in.
Okay.
Now,
How many days did you stay at home?
after going through the process at Fort Meade, which took about a day or so, but then Madeline and Uncle Clayton and Louise came over and picked me up. My barracks bag was so heavy with all kinds of junk that I had in it, other than my clothing, that it took two people to lift it and put it in the trunk of the car.
Well, when you got to went from Boston and you came straight down into southeast home?
I came,
How many days were you there before you went back to Fort Meade to sign
oh,
it?
just overnight,
Oh, just one night? You spent only one night?
all night, and I went early in the morning,
Okay.
so I would find my troops the next morning, you know.
And so,
They had me
what
in
did,
business.
when you got home that night, and nobody was expecting you, okay? So can you tell me some of the reactions? Like Janet, your daughter, had you seen her? Was this the first time you'd seen her?
Well, that was one of the hardest things for me to cope with.
Okay.
Madeline took me into the bedroom where
What did you want?
Michael's on the phone, but I don't want to talk to him right now.
Oh, okay. When I got home, Madeline was still up. And I think she was trying on dresses.
Mm-hmm.
And honest to God, she was skinny as a rail. And then she took me to the bedroom where Janet was. And when I wanted to pick her up, she screamed bloody murder. She wouldn't even let me touch her.
How old was she?
Well, she was almost 3 years old.
Now you hadn't seen her. That was your first
No,
time.
That's first.
So
But I
you
hadn't
were
seen her
total-
from the time I left. She was about 6 months old when I left.
Okay, she was 6 months old.
I was overseas about 16 months. And
God, that must have been hard.
was.
I can't even imagine having to walk out to war on a 6-month-old baby, not knowing whether you're going to come back.
That's right.
Jeez.
And that was one of the hard things that you had to cope with. And
So now she's 3 years old, and you're a total stranger
I
walking
was a
home.
total stranger. It took me a long time before I could even touch her. Her daddy was a picture on the table.
Yeah.
Of course,
another thing happened over Fort Meade.
I figured they ought to discharge us right there and let us go home for 30 days.
And I agree.
Oh, no. No, well, we had our 30 days, that's it. And then I went back to
Oh,
Fort
so you
Meade.
did? They did discharge you? You had 30 days?
30 days.
At home?
At home.
Good, okay.
Okay, now, in the meantime, the night that I was reported back to duty, the Japanese surrendered. And downtown was awash with soldiers and sailors and Marines, all celebrating. I think practically everybody was drunk. But I was supposed to report back to Lee, and I did. There was only 3 men in the barracks, including myself, that reported back for duty that night. There was supposed to be a whole barracks full of people report back. And, well, to make a long story short,
I prayed. Thinking that the war was over. But anyhow,
But the war wasn't over.
the war was over. The Japanese capitulated. Okay? Now, here's where I almost got in a lot of trouble.
Okay, so now the bombs have been dropped,
That's
and the
right.
Japanese have capitulated,
Right.
but you're not being released
No, that's right. And I thought they would discharge us from
immediately.
immediately. That's not the way the Army worked. So they had a shipment to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. This is where we got a
So
check.
they shipped you. They took you from Fort Meade. Now the war's over,
Right.
and now they're taking you from Washington D.C., your home, and
Right.
shipping you out to.
Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, the hellhole of Missouri.
Jesus.
Okay, so I couldn't believe that this was happening. So 4 of us, couples, 2 sergeants and 2 privates,
Mhm.
decided to stay at Missed shipment.
Mhm.
They called us all out. We laid on our bunks like we didn't hear them. And here the sergeant come in, we're sleeping, theoretically. And he said, hey, you guys are supposed to go on the shipment. Well, I said, nobody told us, called us or anything. And he said, oh, they put us on a 3-hour truck to try to get us on the train. Oh, the train pulled out.
So you missed the
We
train.
missed the train.
That's
That was
number
the
one.
first time.
So then how long did you stay in DC then?
What-
After you missed the train?
Well, what we did, we stood reveille every morning
Mhm.
and were accounted for. And I had my car there, and we would polish my car every day for maybe a whole week. And the next shipment, we missed the second one.
Okay, now, wait a minute now. Would you go home at all after?
Oh yeah,
After Reveille?
every night the guys would come to Washington,
Okay.
I would go straight home, or
Okay.
drop them off and have a pickup place for them, the next
Okay.
morning.
Okay, so you take them into town and drop them off, and they'd probably go out and get drunk or
That's
something.
right.
And then you'd go home,
I'd
because you had a
have to find them
family.
sometimes.
You have a family to go to.
But anyhow,
So that lasted about a week.
yeah, it lasted about a week. We missed about 3 shipments, and they said if we miss another one, we're gonna be court-martialed
How did you mix the next two?
the same way. And what we would do,
Uh-huh.
they moved us from one barracks to another every day.
Uh-huh,
But we were there for reveille
Yes.
every morning.
yes,
We went up and put all our stuff in the sergeant's room upstairs,
yeah.
and then we take off for Washington, D.C. Early in the morning, we were back again. But we didn't get caught for reveille. We were always there.
Mhm,
Couldn't pin us down for that, but we'd missed the shipments.
Okay,
And we pulled the same trick every time. We were in a different barracks, in a different group maybe, or something like that.
so that went on for about 3 weeks
No,
then?
no, no, about a whole week.
Oh, for a whole week, okay.
A
So
whole week.
every
We
day
missed
they
3 shipments,
Okay, so every other day there was a shipment, okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Whatever it was. Anyhow,
So finally you got nailed. So what
we
happened?
got nailed. So
Okay.
we went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Now that's another.
Oh, let's hear about that.
Okay, we got back to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. And I had all my clothes at home.
Oh, God.
Everything. I
Okay.
said I got lost on the train.
Okay,
Well, my barracks bag was home with all my clothes in it.
okay.
I couldn't take any training because I didn't have the proper uniforms.
Good.
So,
Like you needed training now. You
Well,
just
that-
survived an entire war,
Yeah.
world war on the front lines, but oh, you needed training, right?
okay. So
What is
what
this,
they
war
do. They put us
games?
right through basic training again.
They put you through basic training again.
Yes.
What was this, war games, government war games? I mean, why were they
Oh,
holding you?
anything. It was taking out your rifle and firing it on the. We took dry firing first. We took gas mask drills. We cut grass in the hot sun with bayonets. We did everything that we did before the war.
Now let me ask you something. Why were they holding on to you?
Okay. Now that's another question.
That's a good
I will
question.
get to that question later.
Okay.
So anyhow, when they had when we had to go out in the rifle range, I knew we always had to fire a weapon.
Mhm,
So I got out to the firing range.
mhm,
Oh, it was a hot day.
mhm.
And they had the guys cut grass in the hot sun with bayonets. But there was a creek went through the rifle range.
Mhm,
And there was high banks.
mhm,
So Jimmy Spreedles and I decided we're going to go for a swim.
mhm.
So we did. When we got back here, Sergeant Garrigan was all upset. They had lieutenants out looking for us. So I said, Sergeant Garrigan, I said, would you get my firing sheet out of the pile down there? Yeah. He went and got my firing sheet out of the pile. I said, what was the firing order? So he told me the firing order. I was expert in all my other things, so I was expert that day too. But anyhow, in the meantime, this one lieutenant and I didn't get along. So he kept hollering my name out. And finally the colonel said, whose man is this? It was his man. He said, you go find him. That's why they were looking for us. But anyhow, they didn't find us. But we got back before everything was all settled and done. We went back to the barracks.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? How many of you guys in this fort were coming back from the front lines?
All of us.
All of you.
Yeah.
So none of you were very happy.
Oh, no.
So, and all of you were seasoned veterans of the
Yeah.
war.
Some
and
had
we-
more time in than others, some only had a short time in, but
But you all had time
we
in.
all had time in on the, I would say, yeah, all of us have time in on the front line.
So all you had time in, and you were all being put through petty nonsense,
Oh,
basically.
tell me
And
about
none of you were very happy, I can assume.
Yes,
Okay.
but anyhow.
Were most of these men unmarried, or were you one of the few family men?
No, there was a number of men
Okay.
married, and this is another sad thing. They get Dear John letters.
Oh.
That was breaking their hearts. It really did. It was one of the hardest things I think that you could imagine.
Okay.
But anyhow, because of the fact that I was one of the older ones and I had survived 3 campaigns, the sergeant asked me if I would take over the supply room.
Mhm.
Well, I was like putting the box in the chicken house. But anyhow, I took it over. I said, yeah. But I said, I want to ask you one question. Does this mean that I will have to stay here even if the other guys get discharged? He said, yes. I said, he wanted to give me a rating. He wanted to give me a staff sergeant rating out of the PFC. He wanted to give us all us old timers a rating before we got discharged. I said, Captain Hatcher, I don't want it. But he said, well, will you teach somebody to do your job? I said, yeah, no problem. So I did. I taught another guy to do things. Next morning after I couldn't find me, that child that night, here, Captain Hatcher's, I was come out and he was standing there at the garbage bucket and I was scraping my plate off. And he said, Private Reinhold, where were you today? And I hesitated a little bit. I said, beg your pardon, sir? He said, did you fire your weapon today? So I said, Captain Hatchers, my score sheet's up today and Lieutenant Waddell signed it. Oh, I know.
But you hadn't fired your.
I hadn't fired my weapon, but I was up to date.
I know, but you were lying. You weren't lying.
Now, what did I? Now, the thing that is that Captain Hatchers and I had a pretty good rapport.
I was going to say.
What had happened a lot of the times when things got rough, and he needed somebody to get some solid information. It seemed like I could see more than anybody else.
When's this back now in Germany?
This was back in Germany,
Okay.
and we're making advances. And I know one night he wanted to go along with the Scots. I said, we don't need you with your pea shooter up here. Well, he said, this is a direct order. I said, okay. But Chief and I will take the lead tonight, and you stay back and don't make any noise. He wanted to see what the Scots had to do up in the front line when he moved up. And this is getting away from the other part of our story, but this is how we gained respect.
Mm-hmm. From, what was his name now? Captain what?
He was Captain Hatchers.
Captain Hatcher.
Hatcher, or something like that. Hatcher, I think it was. But anyhow, that night, we ran into a roadblock. They were bombing Cologne, 2,000 bomber raids, something like that. Look up in the sky, and you can see the vapor trails up in the sky. And as we were moving up, there was a roadblock right in the middle of the street, a machine gun nest, with sandbags all around it, sitting right in the middle of the road where we wanted to go. So, of course, Chief motioned to me, yeah, I see it. And we cautiously moved up. Here, a guy was smoking a cigarette. A German soldier was smoking a cigarette. And every time he puffed, you could see it light up and it could pick down again. But I could only see one man. and I was on the side that he had his back to me.
Now this, this was at night, right?
This was at night.
And it was pitch black.
It was dark.
Okay.
And evidently they didn't expect us.
Okay, so you were really under cover of darkness then,
Yeah.
sneaking
Well,
up.
we most always we attack at nighttime, you know.
Okay.
So I gradually moved up. The chief would move up a little bit, and he kept me covered. If that guy would have moved, it'd have been curtains for him. But he didn't. He just kept smoking a cigarette.
Mhm.
And I
That's
walked
what
up
saved his life.
I walked up behind him, and I had my rifle right in the back of his head. And I said to him, "Kom raus, met je handen van kop." The soldier said, "Ik zie ze, kameraden, ik zie ze." I said, "Nein, ik zie ze." Hoe is dat, kameraden? He said, "In the bunker with the Fräulein."
Oh, no.
So Jimmy Spreezel says, I'll get him out. He said, "I'll finish his job."
Oh, God.
So help me. This is the way I put it. But, okay, so that, and then at different times when we were in,
So what does that have to do with the captain now?
okay, now, when we were in combat and we would be out for a while and the guys would go in town and get drunk.
Yeah?
One night, Sergeant Garrigan and Waddell got in a fight.
Okay.
And Sergeant Garrigan pulverized that doggone lieutenant.
Okay. I know you never liked him, and those are other
No.
stories. But let's
Boy,
not go
they
into
don't
the
count.
Waddell stories
But
right
anyhow, yeah, the story was out that Lieutenant Waddell was going to have Garrigan court-martialed.
Yeah?
So I'm the shithouse lawyer for all the boys. I'm Brother Reinhold. So went in to see Captain Thatcher, and I said, "Captain, I understand that Sergeant Garrigan and Lieutenant Waddell had an altercation last night." Yes, they did. He didn't say any more. I said, "Well, Captain Thatcher, I guess you know Sergeant Garrigan is very highly respected in our group." I know, I understand that. So I wasn't satisfied with what he was thinking. I wanted to know what he was thinking.
What he was saying.
So I said, "Captain Hatcher," I said, "if something happens to Garrigan, I don't think it would be very healthy for Waddell to be around his troops anymore." He said, "I will take care of that. And I want to tell you something. I too respect Garrigan." He said, "As long as I'm captain, nothing will ever happen to Garrigan, but don't tell him." It's okay. That's the way it was. So we had a working
So
thing.
then when he asked you about whether or not you'd fired your rifle that day, and you told him that Waddell had signed the papers and you got an excellent, he knew what you meant by that. And
That's
he was gonna let it go, as long as those papers were signed.
That's right. Now, the next
Okay.
morning,
He was gonna let you slide, okay.
here comes Lieutenant Waddell. Man,
Was he still a jerk even after?
Oh,
He never did?
I wonder if we didn't blow his brains out. But anyhow, here comes Lieutenant Waddell, and I'm in this orderly room. I mean, you know, doing papers, you know, for our troops, you know. And he said, "I want you to go arrest the barracks pending a court-martial." The court-martial. Well, I said, as long as I'm going to get court-martialed, I think I have the right to know what I'm getting court-martialed for. He said, AWOL.
And when is this all?
Away without leave.
Yeah, but when was this?
That was the day that we're firing the weapon, that I couldn't find me. I wasn't on my post.
Okay.
Well, I said, Lieutenant Waddell, I think if you brought that case to court, I think they would laugh you out of court. Because one, I wasn't out of the company area. Two, I fired my weapon, and 3, you signed it.
Did
My
he
firing
even,
sheet.
did he even know that he had signed it?
It's
It's a whole stack.
Don't worry. Sergeant, the hell was his name, is a good friend of mine. He played the guitar and I played the mandolin all the way through Germany. No, isn't that awesome? But anyhow, he made damn sure that he didn't see my name. He just put them all, laid them up so he could put them all. All the whole
firing
roll,
sheets.
Yeah, all the firing sheets at one time. He just
Okay.
laid them on the desk, and all he had to do was sign all the names right on down the line. So it was signed. So I was safe. He started screaming, hollering, and cursing me. And I walked up to him, and I grabbed his bar on his shoulder. I said, "Lieutenant, that's a court-martial offense. I would take those bars right off of your goddamn shoulders." But he was transferred
How soon after that?
right away.
Oh my
Now here's the
God.
funny thing. We're out in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and Sergeant Carrick and I were always going to the rec hall somewhere together. Who did we run into but 2 lieutenants? One that was transferred over to our outfit at WWll, another outfit. Here they had some kind of bravery ribbons on, you know, for combat. And of course, every walk I went, "Where'd you get that? Did you get that after you left us? And Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri?" "Oh, yeah." We intimidated those guys. We wanted them to do something. Because, I would have beat the pulp out of that son of a bitch. At that moment, I didn't care. Neither did Gary.
How did they manage to get bravery medals and you guys didn't? Is what I'd
Okay,
like to know.
this is what we want to know. He put Waddell in and Waddell put him in for a medal. And what Waddell was supposed to have done was annihilate or capture a German tank single-handedly in combat. Now, here comes the truth. We found a tank that was abandoned because it ran out of gasoline. So we took these damn bazookas and fired it into tracks. We had a hell of a time knocking the tracks off with a bazooka. He got a medal for bravery. And the other guy got a medal for bravery. They put each other in. Well, I'm telling you right now, whenever those lieutenants would see us coming down the street, they'd go on the other side. Okay. So anyhow, these are some of the
I'm
things.
just thinking of
What?
when you're talking about medals and how those guys got their medals, and I think of that poor man that just committed suicide because of his embarrassment over a medal,
That's right.
and how horrible and ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right.
But then I guess it brings home a little bit, you know.
I often think of, I shouldn't tell this story, but I think it's appropriate. Kenny Eversole was a very good friend of mine. He's from Lisbontown, Pennsylvania. And I met him in England when, just before we come over to go to France. I heard this name Eversole, and
Okay.
I said, "Sergeant, I know that guy." So I went over, asked, "Who's Kenny Eversole?" "Kenny Eversole?" "Yeah, I'm right here." I said, "Kenny, are you any relation to Luke Eversole in Lisbontown?" He said, "No." But he said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Curtis Reinhold." He said, "Leona Reinhold is your sister?" I said, "Yeah." "Oh," he said, she's married to a cousin of mine, Bud Weaver."
Wow.
So we got to be good
Your
friends.
kin.
So we go all the way into combat, you know, and I think Kenny was climbing over a barbed wire fence and he cut his finger. He went and got a Purple Heart for it. And I always chastised him for it because I said, "Look, Kenny, those Purple Hearts are guys that earn it. I hope you don't have to earn it one day." Well, Kenny was a company runner, and why he wasn't killed, I don't know. But one day he was goofing off, and he went into this house, and that tanker saw him go in there. And he was in bed when he was supposed to be doing his job in this house. This tanker shot through the house, and Kenny got riddled with shrapnel. He earned his Purple Heart the second time. But Purple Hearts were, when you get the discharge, it gave you 5 points for each Purple Heart or something like that, or cluster. So that they were earning, these guys were earning points to get out.
So Purple Hearts had to do with injuries in the war,
Yeah,
sustained
yeah,
injuries?
uh-huh.
Because I know that they sent Grandma Brown a Purple Heart because she lost her son. He was killed at the Bulge, you know, in Germany or wherever that was. But you know, that's all she had of him. No body, no nothing. Just this Purple Heart. This is what the government sent them, a Purple Heart in the mail.
Well, see, the thing about it is, I don't care how strict and how